Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you to this episode of All Things Lean with your host, Madhulika Rajahan. In our last episode, we talked about habits, 5 ways to help users change them. In this episode, we will talk about co-cultures and value framing. Know your users. Co-cultures and value framing. To improve the chances that your design will engage an audience, we must focus on how it can stand out. To do that, we need to know who our audience is. There is no room for everybody when we are targeting. Far from it. So we split cultural groups into many divisions or co-cultures and aim at those instead. Once we know on whose device our design will appear, we can bring value framing into picture. The technique we use to trap users' underlying values to inspire them to achieve goals or our designs. We are aiming to make our users persuade themselves by showing them a mirror. The more of themselves they recognize in a design, the more they are likely to believe it and be likely to follow through with the actions they and we desire. The illusion of culture. Lots of little icebergs. As the way of life of any given group, culture is a powerful force that shapes and defines people's ways of seeing the world. It can be very visible, but can also exist in places we might not consider, such as office buildings and schools. Anywhere where a group of people interact and share the same language, including jargon and slangs, values, norms, symbols, interests, etc., we can identify their groups as one culture or society. Culture is what has driven certain groups to attach different connotations to color. For instance, culture can also unite complete strangers living thousands of miles apart. This can include people in different nations with different cultural views but sharing a hobby. We could therefore say that their common interest forms a small culture within their larger culture, or a co-culture. A drone enthusiast in Brazil and one in Denmark are united that way, for example. Or such a term can include a group of people whose financial status has made them first time house buyers. Think of a nation. What imagery does that land's name conjure for you? If you thought of China, you might envision pandas, the Great Wall, or red temples. One word, China, can convey many powerful notions of China-ness, or what we each might make of Chinese qualities. If we think harder, we might envision people in China, their language, dress, and cuisine. Doing so, we are face to face with the cultural iceberg, seeing only 10% of that society's characteristics and not seeing the 90% of underlying elements, such as approaches to decision making and concepts of self. There is a danger of oversimplification. If a company boss asked you to design for a Chinese audience, that would be too broad. For one thing, China is not monolithic. There are many groups based on such factors such as ethnicity, age, interests, and let's not forget genders, among others. It may be populous, but not everywhere has the hustle and bustle of Shanghai. While the People's Republic of China may appear to be harnessed as one powerhouse of an entity, the reality is that it, like any other country, is made up of many smaller cultures or co-cultures. People are people everywhere. As such, they will have interests and tastes that you can design for. You can't design for a Chinese person or a Briton, for example, but you can for a Chinese software undergraduate who's looking to apply to a British university that's hired you to design an advertisement for their computer college that will be shown in China. What exactly is co-culture and how do I get one? A co-culture is a group whose values, beliefs, or behaviors set it apart from the larger culture, which it is a part of and with which it shares many similarities. Cultures may comprise many subsets, and these co-cultures may thrive within them. For example, many world cities have a Chinatown. A student resident of London's Chinatown might have a British passport, but he could be described as having a set of co-cultures, including Hong Kong parentage, bilingualism, being a business student at school, drone enthusiast, and 20 something, living with parents. We can draw up dividing lines within any society to isolate co-cultures using parameters such as age, gender, political, social affiliations, lifestyle choices, socioeconomic levels, ethnicity, education, region, language, and religion. We may all belong to the human species, and we may all be unique. But if you were to ask to describe yourself in 20 adjectives, you would probably share these features with at least one other person on the planet. Dutch social psychologist Greet Hofstede developed his cultural dimensions theory based on extensive observations of national behaviors. It is the framework for cross-cultural communication and key to noticing variations between cultural norms. Hofstede identified how societies around the world prioritize elements such as respect for authority, adaptability to change, whether they respect strength or sympathize with weakness, whether they are progressive or traditional, whether they value freedom to pursue happiness or view happiness as being determined by other factors, or whether they view the world through an individual or a collective lens. Of course, culture is more than just national identity. Corporations determine their own cultures that tend to transcend national boundaries. However, the way they present the goods and services that they offer to customers differ around the world. This is because while universal human values are common to all, different nationalities place emphasis on different values. For example, one of Hofstede's categories, individualism versus collectivism, which is IDV, is a major determinant in advertising. In individualistic societies, such as those in the majority of Western nations, people tend to refer to themselves as I and we, and prefer a social network where everyone takes care of himself or herself and the immediate family. In collectivist societies such as Turkey, Mexico, or Japan, individuals tend to focus on the group and community, prioritizing others, sometimes ahead of themselves, assuming that because everyone else is doing that, everyone will look after everyone else reciprocally. For example, McDonald's advertises to its US audience by focusing on the individual visitor. Whereas in Turkey, the focus of the website is to show McDonald's popularity. Or we can take a car manufacturer such as Ford and plan our design for a domestic market. The image below shows a range of their vehicles that appeal to a certain co-culture of drivers, specifically drivers in North America who have urban and commuter sensibilities. Here we can instantly picture a profile of the targeted subculture. It wouldn't be people from rural areas or young drivers in school or college. These are commuter vehicles, which appeal to a range of the population that commutes to work and specifically needs high mileage, trustworthy vehicles. That co-culture has values to which Ford has appealed in its design. If, on the other hand, we wanted to think of a pickup trucks group, we might imagine a driver in a rural area. Jerry, for example, who is an American, lives in a town of 1,000 people, listens to country music, transports a lot of heavy farm materials, uses an iPhone, likes beer, is an ex-smoker, was in the army, never went to university, and has a $50,000 mortgage. Jerry lives in a small town. His neighbor is a retired university professor from Los Angeles. Helen, who always wanted to live in the country. Helen drives a classic Volkswagen Beetle. She is an American, lives in a small rural town, listens to classical music. She has also liked to transport little except for library books and groceries, and has an old flip-flop top phone. She likes drinking coffee, has never smoked, and was an academic, never working elsewhere. She has two doctorates in history and philosophy and owns her home outright. People living in the same street, even in the same house, can belong to many different cultures. Teenagers may live under the same roof as their parents and share many cultural characteristics. However, when it comes to musical taste, dress sense, and attitudes towards authority, they are bound to be different. Just because, for example, Mr. Smithson likes this sort of car or that sort of food is no guarantee that his wife also will. Neither approves of their 16-year-old son's loud industrial music, his ear piercing, and his outlandish hairstyle that they think might keep him from finding a proper job. As we see, co-cultures can show a lot of dividing lines. However, these different values and tastes also link people across the world. One person consists of many co-cultures, and every person belongs to many co-cultures at the same time and has the same basic value and viewpoints as the others in their category. Let's talk about the takeaways. Co-cultures are subsets of larger cultures, sharing similar features with the larger culture of which they are a part. Cultures define a group of people sharing a common language, religion, notions about community, etc. Co-cultures are more complex. Each user carries several co-cultures by being from an ethnic group, a language group, an age group, an interest, politics, music, cuisine, etc., and more. So there are a wide variety of target audiences for whatever service, product, or message our organization is offering. Understanding how culture defines groups is an important start to understanding co-cultures. With this, we come to an end to this episode of All Things Lean. We will continue to talk about co-cultures and value framing in our next episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment in the comment section on what you'd like to hear more. Until next time, this is your host, Madhulika Rajahan, signing off. Have a wonderful day ahead.